Welcome to the Last Week This Week review of Thunderbolts. I'm Ian Scott.
And I'm Zack Huber.
And today we're going to give our takes and review on the latest Marvel movie. We're going to start with some non-spoilers, get into some spoilers after. But yeah, you want to start us off?
Sure. So this has been probably my most anticipated Marvel movie coming out this year. I had some pretty I was pretty hopeful for Captain America Brave New World when it first came out, when it was starting to be released. But then as the weeks leading up to it went on, I was not so sure about it, unfortunately. But this one, I've actually just grown in my enthusiasm for this, and excitement for this movie has grown over the past year. I think that this movie was one of the best times that I've had watching a Marvel movie in quite a long time. And for a lot of different reasons, which we'll get into. Yeah, this movie is a lot of fun, does have a lot of great action, humor, dialogue, situations, a lot of cool moments. But one of the things that I think that a lot of people will talk about and post online is just how much of it an emotional movie this is.
Yep.
And that, to me, on top, as with a lot of other things, like how much they kind of Marvel went back to focusing on characters and really focusing on what they want, what they are missing, their own sort of journey. Not that other Marvel movies don't have that. I just feel like over the years since Endgame, there have been more movies often than not that the characters are kind of more of, they represent like a superhero character who needs to accomplish a goal rather than
go through an arc.
Yeah, right. Go through like have a character study arc. And
right. And I think totally to your point there, like Brave New World did that, right? Like Sam didn't have an arc. Like at all, right. Really. And it was all on Thaddeus Ross. But like, I think to your point, like another point of yours, that this movie serves the character so well, right? And like, I think I compare it to almost like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, where like that's the last movie to me that like took itself seriously and served the characters in the story like at the same time. And we finally have like another really good Marvel movie that does those two exact same things. So it was. Yeah,
and it's not like I think that, not to make this about Captain America or other Marvel movies that didn't necessarily work, like quote unquote work. I think that they all have the potential to work. They all have the well-meaning nature to take itself as seriously as it wants to, or try to make this world a believable and interesting world when we're watching the movie. But there is something to be said about when you watch a movie like this and you're reminded that the characters, even if you're like a character like Red Guardian, who is the comedic relief, but in equal parts still, because of how brilliant David Harbour is,
he can drive the emotion as well.
He's not just like the comedic relief. He can be so many other things, because that is what made some of these Marvel characters so interesting to begin with, is that they're more than just a one-note, one-dimensional sort of character.
I'm really happy they did that for Red Guardian in this movie, because that was like my biggest complaint of that character in Black Widow, that he was so one note, and they basically just let him be the butt of like every single joke in that movie. So no, I was very happy with that switch in this movie.
Yeah. And yeah, like the way that the characters interact with each other, the way that they write the dialogue and create situations that make the characters do things in creative ways or are forced to do certain things. It's just I don't know. To me, it makes the world in this movie felt something that I could be invested in, that made the universe feel like we acknowledge the bits of it that are a bit at times campy and absurd. But at the same time, like, can find that, you know, back to 2008 Iron Man, like, we're still in this grounded
semi-grounded
at times world. But like the things have consequences. Things, like, not everything is just, you know, a plot armor, and and they feel like real people as much as they can. So
totally.
And so I mean, I'm not gonna, it wasn't like, I still have there's still things about the movie that maybe
there's things I would change,
like glowing about, but overall I think it's a great movie. I said that it would probably be in my definitely like top 12 MCU movies, I think.
That's a tough one.
But yeah, I mean, I don't have my list off the top of my head, but like I do think it's probably up there. I can't imagine that it's below that one.
Yeah, you're right. It's probably 12 or a little higher for me. Yeah, that's neat. I actually didn't think it would be that high. No, yeah, I mean, like, most of what you said, I totally agree with. I think there was some really great things. I wasn't like directing and cinematography wise, I thought the movie had like a really great like tone and color, and the score, I think, really served the movie well at points. Like, there was some really neat, like, you know, pieces of music that I wasn't expecting for a Marvel movie. Like one of the ones that got me was the when they're driving away from like that I don't want to spoil anything, but
like,
you know,
the
like
envoy or whatever in the desert.
But they're still in the truck. They're not in the limo yet.
Oh, okay.
There's like a piece there that feels like, I don't know. It's just like, it's something I wasn't expecting in a Marvel. It was like kind of electronic, and like it was neat. It was very cool, and there was just kind of multiple. It wasn't a movie where you like had pop like songs or like old school songs. It was just like a pure score, right?
Right.
But otherwise, like I think what I'm so happy about this movie with is that it serves the characters, like the story fits those perfectly. Like, they're all going through something, and like,
except maybe
the larger
one. Except maybe
sure. Yeah, I mean, and I agree. Like, I think Ghost is heavily underutilized in this movie. I was a bit bummed about certain decisions. I think they definitely focused the most on Yelena, even though I'm not bothered by that. I think some other characters could have used a little more emphasis. I mean, I remember when we got that report that it was going to focus more on Yelena, and that the name would come from like the soccer team. I was like, well, they got it right, both
and like I'd have to pull the clip up when we talked about it, but
I remember not being happy that she was going to be like the main, you know?
Right, and I was completely down for it, and I still think that, like,
look, it worked. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't work.
Was like, it still worked.
Both of them work. I just think other characters could have used a little more, and I think that's a little bit of my problem too. Is that like there were like I think the beats came too fast, like after like the previous one. I think like there could have been more breathing room between, you know, like the main like focal points of that movie, and I think like the ending itself could have really had more time to like develop more tension, develop like the characters' backstories even more.
Yeah, I know what you're talking. I know what you're talking about. But
so we'll get into those spoilers. But no, I really enjoyed it, even though I think the movie should have been like a little bit longer, and served some of the characters even more. I think overall it was a really great emotional story that like almost it kind of reminds me in the sense of like how the Flash doesn't end on like a big like fight scene, right? It ends on a really emotional moment and arc, and it serves all the characters well. So some
people are going to hear you say that and are going to think this guy has terrible movie taste.
Look, I don't think either of us are shy that we like the Flash.
I do like the Flash.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to say I love it. I think I really enjoy it.
I think I like it a little bit less than the first time I saw it.
Sure, agreed. I saw it maybe a year after, and I was like, okay, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, I watched recently, and I was like, anyways, different movie.
Anyways, let's get into some spoilers if you want to.
Yeah. So, where to begin? I'd like to start with Yelena is one of my favorite characters, and when you talk about how I've heard conversation about like, well, the MCU doesn't really have a figure to follow now, and the MCU doesn't really have like ever since you lost Robert Downey.
I disagree, but
well, I would say that ever since you lost Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, there hasn't really been a character arc that we've been following.
I'll agree with that.
Yes. And it doesn't really feel like there's a character that we are centered around that audiences are invested in to the same degree that other MCU characters like Robert Downey Jr. and like Chris Evans characters were. And so I think, and especially since we lost Chadwick, he seemed like the next person that people were heavily invested in and could play a larger role. And sure, Spider-Man. But Spider-Man's kind of in this weird place where I'm like, because of the Sony thing.
Right.
But I feel like with this movie in particular, how I feel is now Yelena, and especially her relationship with Bob, is going to be a very integral and exciting part of the MCU story moving forward. Sure. And I'm very excited. I think that everything that Florence Pugh does, Florence Pugh is amazing in this movie.
She was incredible. Right.
And she really did it all. Action, comedy, tears.
Yeah. Well, this
depression.
movie got me to cry, actually. Like that moment with Red Guardian, like when they're like just leaving the Avengers Tower.
Right. Yeah.
And he chases her down. And like when she calls him like dad or daddy again, I was like, oh my God, like that's just, I don't know. That moment was just so special. And I'm so glad that like they really got to develop those two's relationship, in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And like David Harbour's, amazing at pretty much everything.
John Walker, Wyatt Russell, I thought was a great part of this movie.
Yeah, I loved him too. I do feel like he's become more dickish since I last saw him.
Agreed, but I think it's because he's even in a rougher spot than we last left him. You know? And so I think he's just become a bit jaded, but he still wants to be like that good soldier Captain America guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we were gonna have what was his name? He played Glenn in The Walking Dead. Stephen Yeun. We were gonna have Stephen Yeun play Sentry. And as much as that still would have been really interesting to see, and I think that Stephen could have done a great job. I think that Bill Pullman as Bob was
really great. I think
it
works better than in my mind what Stephen Yeun would do.
Yeah, there was just something so I just remember knowing people like him or even having times in my life where I'd feel the way that he was being acted out on screen, of this like, there's anxious, awkward, but also like means very well, but like definitely something is holding them back, and they like, and there's
like a really nice innocence there, you know, like with Bob, but
he played this like depression, like don't want to be a problem, but I want to be useful thing so well. And then when we get into him actually being Sentry, and when we get to see him being Void,
there's like 3 different sides to him. It's really impressive what he did in this movie.
And I think that his relationship with Yelena, like I said before, is like fireworks. Like I think that they are not in a like a romantic sense, but I mean like.
But I think it could become that. I wouldn't have a problem.
It could, but I think that their friendship and like their connection that they have, like every single time that they're on screen, it feels like it's great.
Like you're rooting for them to like work things out, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think that
and I'm very excited to see how that all moves forward, because I think when you bring in a character like Sentry, there's a bit of like, well, how are you going to have, why would you even have the Avengers? Why would you even have a Marvel universe anymore? And I think that they handled the fact that if he, instead of it being like, oh, well, the Sentry's always holding it off, you know, like holding off being the Void, but can like kind of push back against it all the time. The fact that like, as long as he doesn't remember and like he doesn't turn into Sentry, there's no reason for like the Void to happen. It's like, it's a better way of dealing with it, because
it's a much safer way for sure. Yeah.
It's a much safer way, but like, then you're like, okay, now we can have all these other characters, because we absolutely cannot let Bob become a Sentry again.
Yeah, I mean that is true. Like I was like, well, why isn't he Sentry at the end of this movie, and like really with the Thunderbolt or the new Avengers, I should say. But like, yeah, like it totally makes sense that you don't want to bring out the Void, because that just kills everybody, probably everybody on Earth, if he just like stays too long. Maybe, I don't know. Because it fully enveloped New York City, which is insane. But yeah, no, I think the group is very interesting. Like minus Sentry, like it makes things really, I think, juicy and vulnerable. Like you know, for the next chapter, because like they're like, you know, like we saw them try and go up against Sentry, the whole group, and they didn't do anything. Like zero.
I don't think any character would be able to do anything
in this universe.
I don't think that they would be able to do anything. I think
the closest would be Thor or Captain Marvel.
I agree, but
yeah,
it's still like basically Superman.
Right. So you basically have like an incredibly dangerous secret weapon that could like fuck everyone over. So
and I think he's gonna be integral to the next event, the next 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah, totally.
But I know why, but you don't.
Okay. Yeah, I mean they definitely set him up to be a plot point going forward. But yeah, back to the rest of the movie. I think one of my favorite points in the whole movie was like that vault scene.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't expecting it, to be honest, because it was so heavily like shown in the trailers. But like they're quickly like figuring things out, working together. The banter of like Ghost and Yelena kind of like, you know, kind of teasing John. I think it all worked so well. I was very surprised about that jump that John Walker made. I was like, oh, okay, I guess super soldiers can do that. Sure, yeah, that makes sense. No, but there was like, it's not a heavy action movie, but it's like there is good action in it, you know? Like,
yeah, I would say like that was some really great choreographed fighting that they did.
Yeah, like you know, everybody kind of going after their one target. I thought that was really great. I do think it's a little sloppy on like Val's part, because I feel like they can and they did figure out that like Val sent them all to kill each other like really fast. So,
Well,
so not,
I mean,
not the best
I would like to
move,
say
but-
that, like, I think Val as a character thus far is just sloppy in general.
she's
like,
just very sloppy.
like,
And I
I would-
wasn't
like-
expecting that, to be honest.
well, I mean, ever since like Wakanda Forever,
yeah.
where she was like everything that went on with the Martin Freeman's character, like
Yeah, that guy. The CIA agent.
everything has felt like a little sloppy, and I would say even like with her last minute disposing of anything, like this whole basement of things that she's tied
Right.
to, and
Yeah, but I will say,
even like working last minute at the end of the movie, which makes no sense at all, which I'll get into. But
yeah,
like,
well, but I will say, yeah, I agree. It doesn't make total sense, but at least like,
well, it doesn't even make sense how. Sorry.
well, hold on. Yeah, so, but I think it's like I finally was happy because I was like, she finally had like a really slick move that she like maneuvered and like, yes, I think it could have really blown up in her face like at any point. I think like she is like always on her feet, adapting and like manipulating, and I think that was like the really big first sign. I was like, oh, that's Val. That's the Val I want. Because like, yeah, throughout the whole movie, she's incredibly sloppy.
But even if they did figure out, like, the whole plan was for them to be incinerated, which they almost were.
They almost were. Yeah. They were like seconds away from it.
So, I mean,
yeah. Now, but I will say another like point where I really didn't like the sloppiness, because I thought it was more sloppy writing than like on Val, was like when Red Guardian like becomes her limo driver. And I'm like, okay, one, why would she be saying those secrets in front of somebody she doesn't even know? You know, like it like that just doesn't make sense to me. But, you know, I guess if we're writing in the fact that she's just a sloppy person, then yeah, I guess it makes sense. But I was
or she just suspects that it's like an unsuspecting limo driver who speaks Russian and doesn't know what she's talking about.
Still, she's got to be more careful than that.
I agree, you know? But alas, I would say that my least favorite parts of the movie involve her, even though I think that Julia Louis-Dreyfus still has, I still think that they can make this character really, really great in the future. I just don't
know where you would use her in like the next two Avengers movies, you know?
Maybe not in those next two movies, but in some fashion, I still think that there's a way to do something really cool with her. But she still was fine. Like there were still scenes like her with Sentry that, for the most part, I really enjoyed. I just don't enjoy. Because it still is like sloppy again. It's like, okay, let's just rush this thing out. Let's just, and it's like, well, obviously that was going to blow up, and spectacularly blow up. And we all knew Taskmaster was
gonna die. I wasn't expecting her to just take a bullet to the head. Like, that was surprising.
Yeah,
but it was cool to see that.
I did like the fact that like there was like some sympathy for that character.
Yeah. Yelena was like, "Hey, don't talk about her like that." I was like, "Okay, all right." Yelena still like obviously thinks that she got fucked over in life, basically, and so yeah, that was nice to see.
They weren't just a completely like wasted character. Like, they still had like a little bit, the tiniest bit of like, okay, they meant something to assert a little bit
to somebody, right? Yeah. But I think like they also didn't use ghosts. Like I said at the beginning of this,
they really did.
That really pissed me off, because like, yeah, we got to learn about her in Ant-Man and the Wasp, but like a bit, but like
a bit.
We could have had, I don't know, and I think that's my complaint there, is that like at the end of the movie when they're all in the void, we could have explored every single one of their like shame room, I guess is what people are calling it. Yes, yeah, it might have been a little long, but I felt like the end, like the finale was fast. I really did. Like they all just showed up together out of nowhere, which I think itself is sloppy writing.
Well, yeah, like I get why people would like. I get why you're saying that it's sloppy writing. To me,
it's just convenient, you know.
Look, like could you have stretched out the last final act? Yeah, you could have, but
because the movie just felt short.
I don't know. I felt like it was perfectly the perfect length. Like it felt really good. I don't really feel like it needed to be any longer. But like I agree, like it could have been cool, but to me, they already hadn't really given a ton of backstory to Ghost. I don't know how much of like seeing it there was going to do anything. I don't know how much of seeing like something with Red Guardian or Bucky was going to really change things. And I agree, they all do show up, but to me, it was like yes, I am like just like coming up with an explanation in my head, but to me, it was like we know that they like we don't know how time works in here. They show up. Because they've already gone through their whole thing, or they I don't know. It honestly, it really didn't bother me because what it needed to do was have them all there so that they could be there for Bob at the end.
Sure. Like I said, it's convenient writing in a sense, but like I think one of my favorite parts of that movie was learning more about like Walker and like what he did to like basically have his family leave him. Like I think us like exploring like the deepest like darkest parts of like Red Guardian and Bucky, and like we probably would have seen Bucky like first person point of view, maybe killing like Tony's parents. I don't know what we would have seen, but like I think it really would have like served the entire arc of that whole movie even better to just kind of like flesh it out a bit more.
Yeah, I mean it could have been cool, but it still didn't like take anything away from me personally.
I think the thing that kills me is that like when Yelena's roasting everybody after they get beat to hell by Sentry, like all she says to Ghost is you're not a good person, you know, and I'm like, oh that's all you have? Like you don't know anything about her? We don't know anything about her really?
I mean, we really don't. I mean, like she is like the weakest written character in this movie.
Right. And I'm like, if you're only focusing on 5, I feel like there was enough time to like focus on them, at least each one of them a little bit.
Yeah, I do wish that they focused on her a little bit more because she mostly became like just somebody like a character who had a little bit of an attitude. And
like I liked their dynamic in the vault like escape. I did like Yelena and her like teasing John. Like I like that stuff, but I wanted more, you know?
And I think hopefully we'll get more. As I mean,
if she's an Avenger now, then I think so. Yeah. Hopefully.
Let's see. I think that the Bucky scene showing up, one of the best Bucky
that was great
scenes of all time.
Truly, he had quite the moment there. And I think his whole arc as Congressman really worked really well for me in this movie. You know, like I didn't expect to think it was going to be natural. But I like the fact that he had like a focus on Val. He had a mission even as a congressman, and he was able to like adapt that into being the Winter Soldier again. And I kind of like that he was like the semi leader of this group of like really tortured, like lonely individuals, you know, like I think Bucky is like the original of that group, you know,
right.
who's like in this dark place, even though he kind of got out of it at the end of like the show.
Yeah. But, I mean, going forward, I would say that Yelena's the leader personally. I don't think I would say that Bucky
even in
is.
that end credit scene though, like she is the leader, but he's still having to like coach her on what to do. Remember, like he was like, you should call in this, you should do, you know, like yeah. So like he's still like the mentor to Yelena at this point. Right?
Yeah.
But also,
well, I wanted to say that you know, the Sentry stuff was really cool to watch. Although
it was very brief.
It was very brief. Some of I don't really want to talk about this because it didn't bother me. But there was some of the CGI that I was like, okay, little strange at times. But
really?
I'll look past it.
I guess I didn't notice it.
But again, like such a small thing.
Now, no, but here's the thing. The thing I thought was really interesting about Sentry, or I guess, you know, his persona as Sentry, was that like you saw right before they, you know, kill switched him, that he was like gaining a bit of a power complex where he was like, I'm a god. You just said all these like things about me, and I'm better than you. I don't need to take orders from you. I think that's still Bob, you know, like I think he, like, that's not like another personality. Like he's, you know what I mean? And so like I think that's where like one of the flaws in that like ending where she like manipulates it and like, these are the new Avengers. I think he would be like, no, you don't get to control the narrative. You know, like you're going to prison basically, right? And I don't know. I guess that's my thought, because he just didn't have that anymore. That like, I mean, maybe the Void.
He doesn't remember any of it. He doesn't remember any of it.
Oh, was that what they did?
Yeah, he doesn't remember. He came out of it. Remember, he would say like, "Oh, I like throughout the."
He didn't remember any of the Sentry stuff.
Yeah,
wow.
At the beginning,
I thought it was just the Void stuff. Okay.
No, at the beginning of the movie, he says like, "Yeah, I have these moments where like things happen. I come out of it and I don't know what happened. Like I don't remember anything."
Okay.
And that was the whole thing. It's like he doesn't remember being Sentry.
Okay, I like that. I'm good with that then. I thought it was just like the ending where he was the Void, you know.
I think
you're right. I think
it's he doesn't remember being Sentry or any of that stuff.
Right. Very interesting.
I think what I would guess is up until the point where he's like fully activated, like fighting and everything, he's still Bob, just in a suit and with his hair dyed.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he starts, like he's beaten all of them and he starts talking to Yelena, then like this click starts happening. Right. And then as soon as that's over, he's turned into the Void.
Well, but not voluntarily.
No, right.
Sure, right. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that makes things a little better. But I still think like there are problems with like what she did at the very end, you know, like where she announces the new Avengers.
Right. Okay.
Because I mean, people know that like Bob was the one who was the Void. I mean, like, and he's
I don't
standing
think so.
there with the rest of them.
I don't think they would.
Okay. But go on.
To talk about the Void, I think that visually, conceptually, this is probably one of Marvel's best achievements on screen of depicting a character. Like, I wouldn't say that this is comic accurate, but the way but I'm not really one of those people who needs things to be comic accurate, because the way that they depicted this was amazing. Like,
and comic accurate Sentry is not anywhere like this isn't the story that Sentry goes through in the comics, right? Because from what I know, it's like he was a character that like had like everyone else's mind was erased to the fact that like he existed. Like basically he was an Avenger, and then like everyone forgot he was an Avenger, and he went crazy because of that. That's an arc I know of Sentry.
That might be one arc, but I still think that it's he was signed up for the Sentry project, and
right. So they still kept that stuff,
and he was addicted to drugs and all of that stuff.
Okay.
But I mean, just the light of the eyes, you can't, it's like he's like almost like Vanna Black, you know, like you can't really make out that he's talking, but sometimes you get the glimpse that he's talking. And
no, it's creepy. It's really well done.
And it's so silent when he appears, and then the way that the shadows are casted. And I
when people just instantly vanish, like that's horrifying.
When Alexei saves the little girl and and then
when they're all saving people,
disappears, everybody gasps.
Yeah,
everybody gasped. It was so effective.
It was
because you're like, oh, no, oh my god,
they just did all of that, and now they're still gonna die.
And that was really that was so great because you kind of had that a bit of like the circle around Avengers moment, but it's all the Thunderbolts, and you
had people cheering for them.
Yeah,
it was a really great moment. It
showed everybody like, oh, this is what we want,
right?
But then you immediately like, it's like, oh, maybe we're getting some momentum, and it's like, boom, no, there's no way that you're beating this.
Yeah. And I genuinely thought it was gonna be like they were gonna find some way to fight him, but I did actually love that it was like, no, we're gonna like get through to Bob and like get him out of this trance, basically.
Yeah, I would say that this is one of Marvel's best like third acts.
Even though, like I have my complaints about it, I think it is really great emotional arc and payoff.
Yeah, I really love how they handled the third act. I really love how they handled this, like, because I do love a good like punch out, but this is by far more interesting, like movie wise to
the
watch.
Opposite of the Avengers.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like that whole movie is just a punch out,
Yeah. And so like I did find it, like, I think as the years go on, it's gonna be like one of those things that like that I feel like it is gonna be one of their best like third acts for sure, and best like conceptually thought out ideas for how they're gonna make the climax of the movie.
For sure.
And so, we rescue Bob. It's incredible. My big thing about the end of this movie is there was the inkling that like, Valentina starts to like get an idea of like, oh, all these people are cheering for the Thunderbolts. Right. And you're like, okay, so she's going to try to spin this somehow. But how in the X amount of time, very short time frame, where everybody in Manhattan has been sucked into a shame room.
She's just somehow called a press meeting.
Did she pull a press meeting? And then also like conveniently transition through whatever that was, it a bus that fell over, like a tractor trailer or something?
Yeah.
And then they're all like step in and have been sabotaged and ambushed. And it's the very end of the movie. It's the very, very end of the movie. So I give it a pass. They had to get there at some point.
Right.
So I'll give it a pass. And obviously all the characters wanted something like that. Like that's their goal, is to be a team, or at least to be heroes.
But I just don't know how any of them can like justify working for Valentina.
Well, I mean, that's when Yelena says like, we own you.
Sure, but like,
well,
be a group without her. Like, you guys don't have to be the new Avengers.
I think you do have to, like, they want that, and the thing is that how are they going to? Because even when as the credits roll, they're like, the new Avenger, like the B team or even like D team, like all these magazines and newspapers are basically like, right. And so I feel like having the CIA director, prop them up gives them a little bit more of like, okay, maybe we'll give them a chance and prove their worth. And
I feel you. I get it. It's what they want, but I also feel like I guess what comes to mind is like when in season 3, and so spoilers for season 3 of Invincible if anybody hasn't seen it, but like basically half the Guardians of the Globe are like, I don't want to work for you anymore. We can do this without you. We can save lives and help people without you, and the public would still be behind us. Like I think they want it so bad they're not willing to look for like another alternative.
But I don't think that they're there yet. Like they've never even been public facing up until this point.
The only one is Bucky, right? And John.
John.
Yeah, you're right.
So personally, it's like they get the resources, they get the tower, So like it's kind of it's like a give and take.
I feel you. No, I get it. And I think it's cool that they're the new Avengers. Like, and I love like I was actually expecting more from the end credit scene, the way everyone was like talking it up. But I still really loved it. I love the fact that like,
I love that we're like actually following up.
Yes, yeah. And so like it's 14 months later, and they're in the Avengers Tower, and they're talking about the fact that like Sam Wilson is not happy about the new Avengers. He's copyrighted the Avengers name,
which is such a.
How has nobody copyrighted it? By the way, that's what blows my mind.
Well, I was gonna say like it's funny, but I don't believe that Sam Wilson would be like, I'm copyrighting the Avengers. Like I feel like there's got to be somebody else who's like, Sam, you got to copyright it. And he's like, do I really have to? That seems like such a bitch move or whatever.
But I think he's so against this like corporate Avengers that he's like, we have to stop like this from happening in any way possible.
I'm
really looking forward to like those groups clashing because I do think like the new Avengers team is going to get their ass beat by like the real Avengers, to be honest, because it's 3 soldiers, a teleporter, and a Black Widow. Like I don't see them like having a great chance against like Shang-Chi and like I don't know, like you got the whole Marvel roster you can build for your Avengers.
I mean,
right?
I feel like they're not gonna stay the new Avengers. I think that there's gonna be some characters who either die, or there's gonna be some characters who just decide like I don't want to do this.
Sure, I think like the groups might like combine. Right. Sure. It's not going to be a versus the whole movie or anything, but there will be conflict, and I'm looking forward to that.
But I also wouldn't mind like keeping them as like the new Avengers. But I think Marvel won't do it just for the sake of like the Avengers name sake of like audiences being like, so the new Avengers
and the Avengers also exist. Right.
So who is who? So that's the only thing that I would think of is like,
I don't think it's too confusing, but I feel you, right? General audience.
Maybe they wouldn't think it's too confusing.
Right. Yeah. Considering this is looking to be a massive hit. Yeah. I don't know.
It's a hit, like
critically.
I hope that the word of mouth and like the new Avengers like marketing like lets it maintain more of a
my prediction is that it's going to be like a 40% drop off if that, like I think we've seen a pretty good
one.
Yeah, I think Captain America had like a 70-something% drop off the second weekend. And I'm like, we don't need that for Thunderbolts. I'd like it to be successful because like you can tell and like Bob Iger was saying stuff like after the movie release that basically like this movie is the first in their new line of Marvel movies that like focuses on quality over quantity, and that they obviously like reports came out that Kevin Feige was spread so thin in those first few years of Phase 4 and 5 that like he barely had any input on like a bunch of the projects, and that when he gave input, it was like too late. And so, I think, and apparently they're focusing way more on movies than they are on shows at this point.
Yeah.
So I hope,
which is all good things, because
it's all good things, and
I'm burnt out on the TV. I'm burnt out.
Right, and I want the numbers to like support that new vision, because like I think it's gonna work so well. And I'm glad the only like, I guess the only real like live action ones we have coming is Ironheart, Wonder Man, and Vision Quest. And it really feels like there's been zero marketing for Ironheart at this point, so I don't think it's going to do well.
Yeah, but okay, but we're getting off.
But yeah, we're getting off track. The last cool thing that happened in this movie was that there was an unidentified like extra dimensional space object coming in to the atmosphere, and they look, and it's the Fantastic Four ship. So that's very cool. You're definitely setting up the Avengers movie there.
What? Yeah. Well, and I I heard a theory about how I've heard multiple theories about who's on that ship.
Oh, you don't think it's the Fantastic Four?
I'm not saying that I don't think it is. I've just heard theories, like some theories.
It could be Doom.
Some theories say it's Doctor Doom.
That's interesting. I like that theory.
Some theories say that shortly after we, like, in that same scene, the Fantastic Four are coming through, followed right behind them is Galactus.
Oh, okay. That's interesting that they would. I don't know if I buy that theory that they would not like resolve the plot of that movie in Fantastic Four, you know?
Well, but the thing is that I think that this scene that's shown to us, unless the end of the movie directly goes like into that scene with them showing up in this dimension or this timeline or whatever you want to call it, it kind of implies that like it's an unresolved, like the conflict to some degree is unresolved in that movie, because they're obviously going like outside of their, like they're universe.
Leaving their universe, right?
Or maybe the conflict does resolve and they go up in their spaceship and they're like, all right, we're going to go take care of the rest of wwherever Galactus came from, or we're going to go after him. And then something goes wrong and then they end up in our universe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. I like that theory too.
But
yeah, I do think that that'll be
it said interdimensional spacecraft, which by the way,
okay, interdimensional. Okay.
They said like the AI was saying like interdimensional spacecraft, which is such a comic book thing. It's like, really, you can detect interdimensional
what does it even
travel mean? Well, that's what I was trying to figure out, was like, because I was like, I thought it was another timeline, which could be interdimensional, like, but at the same time, like, interdimensional makes me think of like the Miss Marvel like stuff with her, the Bengals, and like another shared reality or dimension within theirs.
Okay, so they're saying it refers to something that exists or travels between dimensions of space or time.
Well, if it's between space and time, then I guess it could be from a different timeline.
Right, but the fact that that they were able to identify, like, scan the ship and be like, yeah, that's an interdimensional ship. Like,
that's what I'm saying. It's just like it's a little comic booky.
For sure, it's comic booky. Yeah.
It's like, all right, yeah, sure. You can detect interdimension, because at that point you just be like unknown, readings, something's occurring, and then you see it on screen. You're like, what the hell? What's going on?
That's interesting though, that they're saying that like the Fantastic Four is from another dimension and not like another universe. That's interesting.
Well, I mean
maybe I shouldn't take it so literally,
because like if you said it was another universe, that could be, there's another universe in our universe is right next to another universe.
Well,
I think there's a bunch of galaxies in a universe.
Right.
So like, it's not like just our universe is the only universe currently, like, talking about the world that, like, the reality that you and I live in. There is another universe. You know what do you understand what I'm saying? Yes.
It's like, yeah. Am I stupid?
I'm pretty sure there's multiple universes.
Because like whenever we like speak about like anything canon, like we're like, oh well, it's this universe and like there's another universe. Are there multiple? I feel like I'm stupid. Are there multiple universes?
Yes, the existence of multiple is a scientific. What am I thinking of?
Yeah, I think you're thinking of galaxies. Yeah. There's like multiple galaxies.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of multiple solar systems.
Basically, yeah.
And there's a bunch of galaxies in our universe,
right?
I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's what I meant.
Okay, so I'm not completely stupid.
Okay, so okay. The multiverse. It's not exactly I'm talking about multiverse. How many universes are there? The exact number of universes is unknown and debated in scientific circles.
Right.
All right, whatever.
Well, it's
whatever.
Yeah, I look, they could have just not said anything about the ship and been like, oh, it's unknown. So I would have preferred that maybe, but
yeah,
kind of leave it up to the imagination.
Yeah, I don't know.
But now we got 2.5 months until we get to kind of figure out what kind of arc we're going to see in Fantastic Four to lead us up to that point. So very excited. Very good movie.
Very full, very filled.
Very full, very filled. Absolutely. But yeah, I think that's our long extended review of Thunderbolts / New Avengers. We, as always, want to say thank you for listening and well, I guess watching because this is a review on YouTube. So yeah, if you want to see more reviews and episodes in the future, you can hit subscribe on our channel. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.